Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivara Thahure Jana Balaba Girivara Thahure Gopi Jana Balaba Girivara Thahure Yasodhanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Rajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachare Yamuna Tira Banachare Jayarandu Madhuva Kunja Bihari Jayarandu Madhuva Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivada Dhavati Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivada Dhavati Yasodhanandjana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodhanandjana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachare Yamuna Tira Banachare Jayaranu Madhava Kunda Bihante Jayaranu Madhava Kunda Bihante Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paramahansa also Tada Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chalanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Mahārishila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Sai Mukunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturadam Ki Jai Jagadada Swami Ki Jai Rumunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bom. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya. Putale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Samaniti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachari Nivashesha Shinyavadi. Paschatya Teja Tarane. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 56th chapter, text 9. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Shukru Vacha Nishamya Bala Vachanam Rahasyambuja Lochana Praha Nasao Ravir Deva Satrajan Manana Jwalan Shri Shugurvacha Nishamya Balavachanam Prahasyambuja Lochana Prahanasau Ravir Deva Satrajan Mananadwalan Shishaguru Vacha Nishamya Balavachanam Prahasyambuja Lochana Prahana Sauravir Deva Satrajan Mananadwalan Shishaguru Vacha Nishamya Balavachanam Prahasyam Bhujalochana Prahanasauravir Satrajin Maninathvalan. Okay. Shiguvacha Samyavala Bachanam Ashambu Jalochana Anasoravir Deva. Okay. Shri Shukuvacha. Shukadeva Goswami said, Nishamya, hearing, Bala, childish, Vachanam, these words, Prahasya, smiling broadly, Ambuja, lotus-like, Lochana, whose eyes, Praha, said, Na, not, Asau, this person, Ravi, Deva, the sun god, Satrajit, King Satrajit, Manina, because of his jewel, Jwalan, glowing. Translation, Shukadeva Goswami continued, hearing these innocent words, the lotus-eyed Lord smiled broadly and said, this is not the sun god, Ravi, but rather Satrajit, who is glowing because of his jewel. You can repeat. Shukadeva Goswami continued, hearing these innocent words, the lotus-eyed Lord smiled broadly and said, this is not the sun god Ravi, but rather Satrajit, who is glowing because of his jewel. So there's no purport by the followers of Srila Prabhupada, so I'll read some of the commentaries by the acharyas, are very short, and then we'll speak. Jiva Goswami states, Krishna smiled in the beginning, Prahasya, then with an intention of somewhat spreading the correct view, spoke distinctly, Praha, with a smiling glance, Ambuja Lochana, that means lotus-like smiling glance. He is not a devata, but only a human. At that, he is only Satrajit. Though Krishna had the Kaustuba jewel, he spoke, he spoke to reveal things according to, and Krishna knew he had the Kaustuba jewel, according to his desire to astonish others. Sridhar Swami explains that Bala Vachanam means words of innocent or ignorant people who thought that someone was the sun god who was actually not. There was a commotion because of thinking the sun god had come. They did not understand that Krishna was supreme. So It's interesting. The only thing Sanatana Goswami adds here at the end of his commentary, he shines because of the jewel given by the sun god. These are the words of children, Bala Vachanam. Interesting. The other inhabitants of Dwarka could not have such ignorance. Interesting. So, again, the verse, Shri Shukavacha Nishamya Bala Vachanam Prahasyam Bhuja Lochana Prahanasau Ravir Deva Satrajin Manina Jwalam. So, Om Igana Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmeditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So what I'd like to point out here in regard to the illusion that children had, or at least some of the residents of Dwarka had, about who that was, thinking it was the sun god when it was actually Satrajit. I'd like to point out something that's very, very interesting, because this illustrates many different principles of what we call epistemology. That means, how do we know what we know? And then, of course, the defects of the conditioned soul, which Srila Prabhupada talks about. I'm going to read some quotes from Srila Prabhupada about the defects of the conditioned soul, where we do make different mistakes, we're illusion, we cheat, like this. So, this is from the Isopanishad, the introduction to the Isopanishad. The difference between a conditioned soul and a liberated soul is that the conditioned soul has 4 kinds of defects. The first defect is he must commit mistakes. So we see that in this particular verse. For example, in our country, Mahatma Gandhi was considered to be a very great personality, but he committed many mistakes. Even at the last stage of his life, his assistant warned Mahatma Gandhi, don't go to the New Delhi meeting. I have some friends and I've heard there's danger, but he did not hear. Prabhupada also gave him warning. So he persisted in going, was killed. Even great personalities like Mahatma Gandhi, President Kennedy, there are so many of them make mistakes. To err is human. This is one defect of the conditioned soul. Another defect is to be illusioned. That is also the defect which is illustrated here. You got mistakes and illusion. Illusion means to accept something which is not. Maya. Maya means what is not. Everyone is accepting the body as the self. If I ask you what you are, you will say, I am Mr. John. I am a rich man. I am this, I am that. All these are bodily identifications, but you are not this body. This is illusion. So, of course, these are upadis, or false designations. The third defect is the cheating propensity. Everyone has the propensity to cheat others. Although a person is fool, number one, he poses himself as very intelligent. Although it is already pointed out that he was in illusion and makes mistakes, he will theorize, I think this is this is this. But he does not know his own position, even know his own position. He writes books of philosophy, although he is defective. That is his disease. That is cheating. I remember Srila Prabhupada talking to some teachers. He said, you're not a teacher, you're a cheater. He would say that directly to their face. They were shocked. Lastly, our senses are imperfect. We are very proud of our eyes. Often someone will challenge, can you show me God? This is also an imperfection that was manifested here in this particular verse, because they're seeing something as something else. But do you have eyes to see God? You will never see if you haven't the eyes. If immediately the room becomes dark, you cannot even see your hands, so what power do you have to see? We cannot therefore expect knowledge Veda with these imperfect senses. With all these deficiencies in conditional life, we cannot give perfect knowledge to anyone, nor are we ourselves perfect. Therefore, we accept the Vedas as they are. And some more quotes from Prabhupada from a purport. It is understood from the Vedic science of epistemology, the Nyaya Shastra, that knowledge of an object, prameya, means what is to be known. Depends on a valid means of knowing. Pramana, which means, how do you know what you know? Evidence, different types of evidence. So remember these two words, pramana and prameya. This is very important because it's going to be brought out later on in today's discussion. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can be known only by means of the Vedas, and thus he relies on the Brahmin sages, who are the Vedas personified, to reveal him in this world. So, in this particular case, this particular verse we're reading today, it is actually illustrating the point of Dharmanta Sakshat Bhagavat Pranitam, that true understanding, or dharma, or the correct ascertainment, only comes from God. So in this particular case, this verse we're dealing with today, people are in illusion, but God is speaking the truth because he's not subject to illusion. So it's very important for us to understand this concept of pramana. Of course, technically that's called epistemology. How do you know what you know? And in the different darshans, there's 6 different darshans, which we're going to talk about very, very briefly. There's different pramanas that are accepted, or a means of evidence or evidence that's accepted. So let's go through them rather quickly. In the Yoga and Sankhya philosophies, you have the pramana of pratyaksha, which means perception, is accepted. Now, not on the highest level. See, not all these pramanas are accepted by each of these followers of the darshans on the highest level. There's inference. Inference means like what Prabhupada would call induction. Just so you understand what induction means, that we see one man dies, another man dies, and we may come to the conclusion everybody dies. Now, of course, that's true, because that's borne out by Shastra. You know, Janmam Richa Jaravyadi, Dukha Doshana Darshanam, you know. From one was born, one must die, one dies, one is born, you know, that's Shastra. But using induction, we come to the same conclusion, but not necessarily that you'll come to the same conclusion about other subject matters using induction, because you cannot possibly examine each and every instance of a particular case. Does everybody understand what I'm talking about? For example, let's talk about astronomy right now. So they are observing certain phenomena or things that make different wavelengths, let's say, on this Earth planet, things that they can control, things that they have connection with, you know, things that they can examine. And so they are postulating that those same laws of physics, as far as the spectra of light, taking that for an example, apply in the celestial sphere. They may or may not. I'm not expert enough to say whether they do or they don't apply, but they may not apply. Just like the scientists originally were thinking that Newtonian laws applied on every single level from the macrocosmic sphere to the microcosmic sphere to the nanosphere. But later on they discovered what? Quantum theory. That basically, you know, these particular laws, Newtonian laws, don't apply. I mean, all sorts of weird things happen in the quantum field, and still they can't understand. You know, the scientists say that if someone says they can understand quantum mechanics, they don't understand quantum mechanics. So anyway, so that's induction or inference. Sorry, taking a long time on that. And of course, they also accept shabda. Shabda means the evidence of sound coming from a higher source, which is actually what we consider to be the highest source of knowledge. Okay, that's yoga and sankhya, which are a pair. And Vaisheshika only accepts perception, that means, and inference. They don't have the shabda. It's interesting. Nyaya which is logic, accepts perception, prajaksha, inference, comparison, comparing two things, and shabda. Mimamsa, that's purva mimamsa. That means like karmakanda, not karmakanda, karma mimamsa, which is what Krishna taught to Nanda Maharaj to dissuade him from worshiping Indra. So mimamsa accepts perception, inference, analogy. It's interesting, analogies really don't prove anything. They just help you understand things. And something called artha pati. Basically, that means non-experience. And I'm going to explain what it means. There's an example given by Jiva Goswami about this. Since he is fat and does not eat during the day, he must eat at night. Does everybody understand what that means? So somehow or other he's eating. Like Prabhupada said that about his sister. His sister says she doesn't eat anything. So he understood she was eating. And shabda. And then we accept the uttaramamyamsa, that's the transcendental, both the personalist and impersonalist. We accept perception, not on the highest level, but Jiva Goswami in his Tattva Sandarbha deals with perception. We accept inference, induction, analogy to explain things, and this arthapati, which we explained before, which is non-perception. And ultimately, shabda. Okay? So this is different pramanas. Now, hopefully we have time for this because I did prepare a lot. So I am going to give a brief summary of the Tattva Sandarbha right now, in which Jiva Goswami explains the ultimate pramana. And so this Tattva Sandarbha is the first of the the 6 Sandarbhas by Jiva Goswami. And it's dealing with epistemology, but it also deals with prameya. There's 2 parts of it. Pramana means what we accept as evidence, perfect evidence, and prameya, what is to be known, what we're trying to understand. So these are some notes I made on the Tattva Sandarbha. In the beginning of the Tattva Sandarbha, of course, Jiva Goswami offers his obeisances to Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, and then offers his respects and obeisances to Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who was the original one who compiled the notes for the Tattva Sandarbha. And Srila Jiva Goswami says that these notes weren't, I'm just paraphrasing, these notes weren't always compiled in sort of like an orderly fashion. So Jiva Goswami says that he is actually recompiling these notes, and that's what the Tattva Sandarbha is, to put them in a systematic order. So, anyway, the first thing he starts out with in establishing pramana is that you cannot use material reasoning to establish pramana. And he quotes from the Mahabharata. These are very beautiful quotes. 6:6:11, in which the Mahabharata says, one cannot use material reasoning on those things which are inconceivable. Inconceivable things refer to those things existing beyond prakriti or matter. Now, we've even experienced that matter is inconceivable, isn't it? I mean, not even talking about the source of matter or the creation or anything like that, but even matter itself and how it functions, even the scientists have come to the conclusion that it's inconceivable. And then he quotes from the Upanishads, actually, sorry, from the Brahma Sutra, the Vedanta Sutra. It says, the Lord cannot be known by reason because the source of understanding of the Lord is the Upanishads. I'm going to skip here because I got quite a few notes. And then he quotes from the Jaimini Sutra. I mean, he has all these beautiful quotes here. When there is a combination of literal meaning, interpretive meaning, altering the syntax, referring to other texts, philosophical stance, etymological meaning, the later forms are considered progressively weaker in authority because of the possibility of their producing contrary meaning. In other words, I'll unpack that. I'll unpack it instead of repeating it. I'll just paraphrase it. That literal meaning is considered the highest when you're dealing with Vedic texts. And then interpretation of that is the second highest. And altering the syntax linguistically is further down. Referring to other texts is further down. One's philosophical outlook is further down. And just analyzing it etymologically, that means the words or the derivation of the words. So these weaker in authority. The highest authority is the literal meaning. This is the Jaimini Sutra 3.3.14. And if you're interested in any of these things, read the Tattva Sandarbha. All these quotes are in the Tattva Sandarbha. And then he states that, but the words of the Vedas are very difficult to access and difficult to understand. And since there are sages who explain the text, same text, and they disagree on the meaning, we should go to the Itihasas and the Puranas, which explain the meaning of the Vedas, which are another form of the Vedas and are authoritative. And, we also have that quote from the Bhagavad Gita, Trigunya Vishaya Veda Nishtrigunya Bhavarjuna, Nirdvandvo Nirsattvasto, Niryogakshema Atmavan. And then, then of course you have the quote from the Mahabharata, Tarko Pratishta, Shutina, Vibhina. The Vedas are very variegated. And then he explains another meaning of the word Purana. He says, it is also said that a Purana is so called because it completes the meaning of the Vedas. Not only does it mean it's an old text, or refers to history, or it has all these different things like the creation, subsequent creation, etc. It is not possible to complete the Vedas with something which is not equal to the Vedas. So he compares, he says it's not possible to complete a gold bracelet with a piece of lead. So in other words, it's of the same level of Vedas, with the Vedas. Then he quotes, actually, this is a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Itihasa Purananam Panchamam Veda. Oh, I think it's Uchate, but here it says Ishvara. Sarvebhya eva vakrebhya sasajre sarvadarshana. Brahma, who has faces in all directions, created the fifth Veda, composed of the Puranas and Itihasas from all of his mouths. That's from the Bhagavatam 3:12-39. He says the Puranas are like the name of Krishna, which is the real fruit of the creeper of all the Vedas. Another quote. Though the Puranas are established as authority because they do not leave the meaning unsettled, those who are less intelligent still find the Puranas difficult to grasp, since the Puranas are unavailable in complete form. This is something I've spoken about before, that most of the Puranas, other than the Bhagavad Purana, and the quotes given to us by the Acharyas from other Puranas have been changed, things taken out, things added to them. And, there's some Puranas that they're just questionable, like many devotees, they quote from this one Purana called the Bhavishya Purana. You've heard about that before. And the whole historicity or bona fideness of this Purana is actually questioned by many scholars, and also you never find Prabhupada quoting from the Vishnu Purana. It appears scholarly to be a more recent literature. So then Jiva Goswami talks about the Sattva Puranas. He says, in the Sattva Puranas, the Sattva works, the glory of Vishnu predominates. In the Rajasika works, the glory of Brahma is greater. In Tamasic works, the glories of Agni and Shiva are greater. In mixed works, the glory of Saraswati, as well as other devatas, are greater. So, having manifested the Puranas, which are already there, having composed the Brahma Sutras, Vyasadeva was still unsatisfied. This is from the Bhagavatam, of course. He then manifested in Samadhi the natural commentary on the Brahma Sutras, the Bhagavatam, in which there is a harmonization of all scriptures. Thus it begins with a reference to Gayatri, which represents the meaning of all the Vedas. So, in other words, it's coming to the point of establishing, just to summarize the whole thing, that the Bhagavatam is the ultimate pramana for us, more than any other literature. Of course, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and we know that the Bhagavatam has been passed down in an unbroken form in disciplic succession. The Bhagavad Gita has been passed down in unbroken form in disciplic succession. The Mahabharata has not. Most of the Puranas have not. So we have to be very careful about taking quotes from other literatures, unless those quotes have been utilized by our previous acharyas. So nowadays we find devotees, very expert taking different quotes to prove different philosophical points. And those quotes have not been utilized by our previous acharyas. So we have to be careful about that particular point. He describes the Bhagavatam as the most complete. Thank you for the music. So he describes the Bhagavatam as most complete, and he quotes this verse from the Bhagavatam, which is a beautiful verse. Sarva Vedanta Sharam Hi Shri Bhagavatam Ishyate Tad Rasamrita Triptasya Nan Yatra Shadratik Vachit. Srimad Bhagavatam is declared to be the essence of all Vedanta philosophy. One who has felt its satisfaction from its sweet ras will never be attracted by any other literature. That's from the Bhagavatam itself. 12, 13, 15, if you want the citation for it. He says the Bhagavad, this is interesting. So Narada was Shukadev's Parama Guru. That means he was the guru of the guru, grandfather guru. And Vyas was his guru, Shukadev's guru. The Bhagavatam, coming from Shukadev's mouth, became more attractive even to them. For this reason, Shukadev taught Narada and Vyas as well in the assembly. So when Shukadev was speaking to Parikshit Maharaj, Narada and Vyas. So not only the Bhagavatam is the topmost understanding pramana, but when it is actually spoken by Shukadev Goswami, it becomes even more sweet. Not more truthful, but more sweet, more relishable. And of course, the Bhagavatam itself says that Shuka Mukhad Amrita Dravyam Sangyutam. Bhagavatam from the mouth of Shukadev becomes sweet and liquid. That's from Bhagavatam 113. Shuka Mukhad Amrita Dravya Sangyutam. From the mouth of Shukadev, it becomes Amrita Dravya. Amrita, nectar, because it is spoken by Shukadev Goswami. And finally, there's a beautiful verse from the Bhagavatam, 12:69, and I'm going to, in the Bhagavatam, which describes the subject of the Bhagavatam. So we talked about Prameya, which is talked about in the Tattva Sandarbha. Swashukanipirta chetastad yudastanyabhavo Vyachita ruchita lila krishna sarastadiyam Vyatanuta kripaya yastattvadipam puranam Tam akilabri jina nam vyasa sunam natosme. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the son of Vyasadeva, Shukadev Goswami, who, though fixed in his own bliss, with no distraction, became attracted, abhideya, so this is the abhideya, to the pleasing pastimes of Krishna, and then we have Sambandha, and mercifully spread the Bhagavatam, which destroys the goal, which describes the goal, prayojana, and destroys obstacles to attraction. And that's Srimad Bhagavatam 12:12-69. So in this way, Srila Jiva Goswami is describing how the Bhagavatam presents to us abhideya, sambandha, abhideya, and prayojana. So some discussions about epistemology. How do we know? And just to reiterate, we have imperfect senses, tendency to cheat. We do make mistakes, and we are certainly oftentimes in illusion. So we have to be very, very careful about what we accept or who we accept as authority. And Srila Jiva Goswami establishes that Bhagavatam is the ultimate authority or pramana. So anyone have any questions? Twelve, 13, 15. Yeah, that's correct. If one who has felt satisfaction from a sweet ras, what does the 12, 13, 15 in Bhagavatam say? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's giving the same pramana that, same evidence that Srila Jiva Goswami gave, but in a simpler fashion for us to understand. Yeah. Can understand. Yes, that's right. What's that? Yeah, so those who can read the Tapasandava, which has been published in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness by Gopi Pranadana Prabhu, actually didn't publish it, he translated it and commented on it. That book is available. But just hearing these things, even if one cannot understand all the points I've been making, it sort of proves that our presentation, or the Krishna conscious presentation of the absolute truth, is the most philosophically consistent, provable, etc. So that one will derive more faith after hearing these different descriptions. I mean, that's the reason I presented all this. Yes? I have a whole PowerPoint that includes all these things. Includes all these things. Yeah. This is, it's not a Sunday feast presentation. It's a little bit heavy philosophy, but some of it could be presented in a Sunday feast. So the PowerPoint I have is quite simple on these things. It has these verses, and that's what I picked it from, my PowerPoint. It has some of these verses and some pictures, too, to illustrate the different philosophical issues. Yeah. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah, it's important, what is that? That verse quoted by Sanatana Goswami. Vaishnava Mukod Girnam Putam Harikatam Chavananaiva Kartavyam Sarva Chistiyapatapayam. One has to make sure they're strict Vaishnavas, yeah. Or else it can actually affect one's consciousness, according to Srila Sanatana Goswami when his quote from the Hari Bhakti Shuddhaya. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, translating the Goswami's literatures, everything is fine. What I quoted on was not the Goswami's literature. What I was mentioning was not so much the Goswami's literatures, but different literatures that had not really been presented in our sampradaya by our acharyas. So it's, as Mahabharata and Madhvacharya's commentary in the Mahabharata, he says the Mahabharata, the present edition of the Mahabharata, has been contaminated. Things added to, things taken away. Now we read the Mahabharata, but we understand it doesn't have the same level of authority because of the changes that have been there.
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Agom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalen Priya Priti Manti Vasyan Vipan Vikayanti Jiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham
Bhajami Govindam Namo Vishwaram Sajid Ananda Rupam Lasat Kunalam Gokule Brajamanam Ram Sajid Ananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Yasodami Yolokalan Davamanam Param Rishtamat Yantato Druja Gopya Rudan Tamunetra Yugmamrichandam Karam Boshajuk Menagot Satanka Netam Satankaneta Muchashakam Patre Rekangakanta Sita Kraivam Damu Daramatibadam Rekangakanta Tarevam Daram Ichidrik Swalila Bir Ananda Kunege Swakosham Dimajan Tam Akyapayantam Tani Sita Gesu Bhakta Jita Tam Punat Prematas Tam Shata Vritti Vande Varam Deva Mokshamna Mokshavatim Maga Nachanyam Vrene Hambareshad Apiha Jamnak Shavatimba Idam te vapor nata gopala bala sadame manas jave rastam gemanyai manas jave rastam Idam te mukam pojam achantanilai Vritam kundalai snigda rataisya gopya Muschum bibdam bimba raptadarambe manashavi rastam alam lakshalabai. Namo Deva, Namo Da, Ananta Vishnu, Prasida Prabhu, Dukkha Jalabhi Magdam. Ananta Vishnu, Sita Prabhu, Dukkha Jalabhi Magdam. Kripa Tristi Vris Tati Jinam Batanu Grahane Shamam Magyam Ejakshi Drisha. Uverat Majau Bada Mujay Vajan Wayamochitao Bhakti Pajau Krito Cha. Tata Prema Bhaktim Swa Kame Priyajaga Namokshe Grahome Sti Damodareya. Namaste Stu Damne Sporadit Didamne Twati Ottarayata Vishvashadamne Sporadit Didamne Namo Radhikaya Tva Diyapriyaya Namo Nanta Lilaya Devaya Tubhyam. Namo Radhikaya Diyapriyaya Namam Vishwaram Sachit Anandu Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam. Yasodabeo Lukalad Tavamanakum Padam Shtamat Janta Todrukjakopya. Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radha. Jaya Radha Golokananathrad, Golokananathrad. Nayarana, Golokananathrad, Golokananathrad. Jayarad, hey, Jayarad, hey, Rade, Jayarad. Jayarad, Jayarad, Rade, Jayarad. Jayarade, Jayarade, Jayasri Ragate, Jayam Vishnupad, Paramahansa, Paramahikacharya, all the Teras, and Tishi, Shimad, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anantakoti, Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Namacharya, Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, Nityananda Shidwaita Gadada, Shivasati Gaur, Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath, Sayama Kunda, Radhakunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavanam ki jai, Majuram ki jai, Jagadasami ki jai, Yamunamai ki jai, Shimati Lasi Devi ki jai, Samveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bom. All glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada ki jai. To the Supreme Controller, who possesses an eternal form of blissful knowledge, whose glistening earrings swing to and fro, who manifested himself in Gokula, who stole the butter that the gopis kept hanging from the rafters of their storerooms, and who then quickly jumped up and ran in retreat in fear of Mother Yashoda, but was ultimately caught. To that Supreme Lord, Sri Damodar, I offer my humble obeisances. Upon seeing his mother's whipping stick, he cried, rubbed his eyes with his two lotus hands. His eyes were fearful and his breathing quick. And his mother Yashoda bound his belly with ropes. He shivered in fright and his pearl necklace shook. To the Supreme Lord, Sri Damodar, who was bound by his devotees' love, I offer my humble obeisances. O super excellent pastimes of Lord Krishna's babyhood, drown the inhabitants of Gokula in pools of ecstasy. To the devotees who were attracted only to his majestic aspect of Narayan and Vaikuntha, the Lord herein reveals, I am conquered and overwhelmed by pure loving devotion. To the Supreme Lord Damodar, my obeisances hundreds and hundreds of times. O Lord, you were able to give all kinds of benedictions. I do not pray to you for liberation, nor eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor any other boon. My only prayer is that your childhood pastimes may constantly appear in my mind. O Lord, I do not even want to know your feature of Paramatma. I simply wish that your childhood pastimes may ever be enacted in my heart. O Lord, the cheeks of your blackish lotus face, which is encircled by locks of curling hair, have become reddened like bimba fruit due to Mother Yashoda's kisses. What more can I describe than this? Millions of opulences are of no use to me, but may this vision constantly remain in my mind. O unlimited vision.